Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Swinging Sunday Scan for February the 27th, 2022. We're going to start by looking at the markets. We're going to look at some previous ideas that we called in the past, and we're going to go over some new ideas. Any of this content helped you out in any way, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this in the future, hit subscribe. If you hit the bell, you'll get notifications anytime we put out new content. Let's get to it. Going into last week, we saw a break below that 444 area, and we were expecting a continuation, or at least hoping for a continuation, to the downside. We did point out that 420 area as a possible area where the market could bounce. On Wednesday, we closed just above the 420 area. The morning after, we gapped down huge. That morning, it was really hard to tell what the market wanted to do, whether it was going to maybe potentially crash, maybe put in a bounce in the morning and then continue a sell-off throughout the rest of the day. But reading some other traders' reaction on what happened that day, I feel like the most common reaction was most traders felt this bounced way farther than most people expected. It filled the gap and it continued to rally past 420 with what I would describe as a very strong push higher. It followed with another strong day on Friday, which to me, I would describe this as pretty much beast mode. Looking at this from a technical standpoint, there's nothing super shocking about this. We did point out that 420 area as a possible area where it would bounce. The gap down put the market quite a bit a ways away from that 420 area. Sometimes I look at stocks and the market like an elastic band. When you get too far and too fast through an area, a lot of times the market will want to snap back like an elastic. In some ways, this is kind of what happened on Thursday and Friday of last week. We pushed really hard and really fast through a significant area that one would describe as a very bearish sign. And then I think the reaction on Thursday, Friday was just like an elastic, a snapback. There's certainly a lot of uncertainty in the market right now with the invasion of Russia into Ukraine is heating up and escalating. I would expect the next few days are going to be a volatile market. However, I don't tend to use news to form my bias on whether the market is going to go up or down. I let the price action and the price of the market, as well as the patterns that it forms on the chart, to dictate what my bias will be. So going into next week, my bias is this bounce will likely continue, and the two areas that I'm looking at for a reversal back to the downside would be that 444 area that we were looking at previously, or the 450 area. Basically anywhere between the 444 area and the 450 area really for me is game. Some of the signs that I'd be looking for are some narrow range bars within that area and a break below that range. To draw what I mean, if we're going to continue up towards this area, potentially we might reverse here at 450 and then continue down. Again, like last week, this is not a prediction of what the market is going to do, but this is a scenario that I'm going to prepare for. The QQQ has a similar picture. We have one area here around the 350 area where this could potentially reverse. Even in this 360 area, it looks like a pretty significant area if you look to the left. We have a bottoming tail here, a large green bar day here, another bottoming tail here. 360 is a whole number, so that could be another area if you're watching the QQQ for a reversal to the downside. So kind of jumping ahead a little bit, my plan basically for the week coming up ahead, I have some new ideas, but a lot of them have not formed to the point where they're ready to enter. Basically, when I'm looking at the market right now, a lot of the longs have already bounced. The risk to reward to get into any longs is not great, and the market hasn't bounced long enough necessarily to start shorting any new stocks. So I'm in a pretty good position right now where I have two longs and two shorts. I'm pretty evened out. Since the longs are already gone, I'm going to start preparing to look for shorts that are going to shape up in the next couple days. This will likely require another scan midweek if we get some more upside extending the market, looking for a reversal to the downside. But I have a few stocks that I put on my watch list. Now it's kind of tricky because they haven't fully formed yet, so this list of ideas may likely completely get changed for a whole new set of stocks later in the week. It just really depends on how these stocks shape up with the market bouncing. 4 stocks that I currently have open right now is WMS, WELL, UVV, and ENB. ENB got off to a good start with the bounce of the market. We'll see if it can continue. I exited my RLYB because we're coming into earnings next week, and I exited MCD, which went to full target. Some other ideas that we mentioned last week, NLOK. This one had a really decent bounce close to that support area. However, where I would enter in this stock would have been the high of Friday, and if you look at the risk to reward, it is not great at all. It's basically a 1-to-1 to the top of that pivot around that $31 area. I basically would not take this, but you know, the thesis was there, but just not really a trade to take there for me. IRMD we called last week as an idea. This one had a big gap down with the market and it rallied just like the market did, but like I was talking about last week, the stock trades very sloppily and is kind of an ugly chart. I would fear too much of getting shaken out of this stock, and the range is not great, so I'm not going to take this one, or likely take it in the future, but it was one to watch at least. AFL was another one that we called as an idea. This one also gapped down with the market. Again, risk to reward is no good here. This one will not be a trade that I will be taking, but it was worth watching. So we have 10 new ideas. Again, these ideas are not ready to enter, but they're the best ideas that I could find that could potentially set up for a good entry. And something I'll be using today for some of the ideas is the use of Fibonacci, which is basically, in my opinion, just looking for the 50% retrace mark or near to it from when you measure the top of the move to the bottom of the move. The retrace would be somewhere in the middle. You'd be looking for a retrace to enter somewhere in the middle. First idea, CELH. This one currently is pushing into this resistance area here. It is getting quite choppy and we are heading into earnings, so this one's basically a watch to see what happens after earnings, to see if we can get some sort of tight range where we can get a good risk to reward to enter in short on this one. Next idea, MODV. Again, super early, no trade yet, but seeing how that this one popped into that red line, which is the 50 period moving average, put in some tight doji bars with some topping tails and with a big move to the downside. I'd be basically looking for a similar setup where this one could bounce, hug that 50 period moving average, and give us a good risk to reward for a big move to the downside again. So again, this one's not set, ready to go, but maybe in the next 2, 3 to 5 days, we might get some setup. Next idea, ATEN. This one is a bit similar to the last one. This one has had a big gap here, so not a huge fan of that. Also, this one is trading very sloppy. You can see this big red bar here that engulfed basically 2 to 3 weeks worth of trading. This one I'm probably just going to take off the list because looking at it now, I'm not really a big fan of this one at all, but nevertheless, it's an idea. Next idea, CPNG. This one we're heading into a pretty big resistance area here. Earnings is estimated to be in the next couple days, March the 2nd in the evening. So this one, we would be waiting and seeing what happens after earnings, and maybe we can get some sort of tight consolidation similar to these bars up here with a big risk to reward potential. Next idea, AMSWA. So far, this one is one of my favorite ideas. Reason being, we do have room to still bounce and get extended into both the red and yellow line, which is the 50 period moving average and the 200 period moving average. We're also, that area is a decent supply resistance area. And the other thing, when we're talking about Fibonacci, I just drew in the top of this pivot to the bottom of where we're bouncing, and this green box here is basically the Fibonacci area, where the middle of this green box is exactly 50% and the top and the bottom is around 40 to 60%. So bouncing anywhere into this green box, close to this red box, close to the red and yellow line, to me is checking a lot of boxes of a lot of different areas combining. As well, we have a pretty solid downtrend on this stock. So this checks a lot of boxes, and wow, do I like this big red day here. To me, that's a huge sign of weakness, especially after this stock has bounced and then continued to decline. There's a lot of room lower to this stock to get back to where it was back in 2018, around the $10 mark. So I'm hoping this one shapes up again like all the rest. This is not ready to enter now, but if it continues bouncing into those underside of the moving averages and gives us an opportunity somewhere in the 40 to 50% retracement range, I'd be looking at definitely getting in this one short. Next idea, HYFM. I drew in two Fibonacci areas, one showing 50% from this pivot to this pivot. What this stock did was it bounced, retraced around 50%, and then continued lower. So basically what I'm looking for is after earnings here, we get a similar move where it could bounce basically from a 50% retrace. When we take this pivot down to this pivot, we get a nice quick extended bounce somewhere into where this circle is. I'd be looking at some signs for a potential reversal back down to the downside, getting into this stock short. Again, what a great downtrend the stock has been putting in so far. A nice bounce like this bounce and this bounce. If we can get one here, that would be fantastic. Next idea, BOOT. Same exact idea. We'd be bouncing up into this area, which would be close to both the 200 period moving average and the 50 period moving average, as well as 50% retrace from the top of this pivot down to the bottom of this pivot. This one's a little bit different than the last two because it hasn't put in a decent downtrend for a while. We basically put in a double top here, which could be sign of a reversal for a longer downtrend, but this one is a little bit more aggressive because we haven't really established a downtrend yet, but using the double top as a good sign of reversal is good enough for me. Next idea, MEDP, same exact idea. However, this one had not really a decline, but more of just one day. So this one doesn't quite meet the smoothness of what I'm typically looking for. And these tight bars here are really choppy and is just a recipe for getting shaken out of a trade. So not really a huge fan of this one, but again, an idea nonetheless. Next idea, SRI. This one has a similar idea to the rest. We are potentially heading into a supply area here where it was tested 1, 2, 3 times as a support zone, which is now going to be a resistance if it makes it up to that area. This one's not ready because we have earnings coming up, and I would rather wait for it to approach this red line as well as this resistance area before I'd be looking at getting into this one short. Trading pretty smooth, so this one I'll be watching closely. And last but not the least, BLFS. I love the range on this stock. Look at this huge move that it put in here around October 2021. And then also look at this swift decline here in November 2021 as well. If this one continues kind of moving the way it has in the last few months, this one could be a nice easy win, but we are getting into some chop here, so we'll just have to see how this one trades, if we get an opportunity or not. Same idea for the rest. You can see here, this one put in a nice bounce towards a 50% retracement and had a nice decline. So we're going to try and look for the same kind of idea. This wasn't really a full complete move. We did have a bit of a hiccup here that put in a bit of a pivot and maybe even a second pivot here as well. So it's really hard to say that this is a perfect 50% retrace on a smooth move, because this move wasn't entirely smooth. But I will thank you. Remember, always trade with a plan, trade safe. Thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next one.